The plasma fire tore through the settlement's eastern wall at exactly 0300 hours. Danny Carter was awake because he couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling of his quarters when the alarm screamed to life. He grabbed his jacket and boots, stumbling into the corridor as colonists rushed past in panic. The smell hit him first, that acrid burn of melting metal and scorched earth. Outside, the night sky blazed orange. The transport depot was already half consumed, flames licking up into the darkness. Danny ran toward the chaos while others fled from it. His medical training kicked in automatically. Find the wounded. Get them clear. Don't think, just move. He spotted them near the collapsed storage unit. Two small figures huddled against the debris. Their skin shimmered with an iridescent quality that caught the firelight, scales that shifted from blue to green to purple. Alien children, the Valarian family that had arrived 3 months ago, seeking refuge after their world was destroyed in the war. The boy couldn't have been more than 6 in human years. The girl was younger, maybe 4. Both were crying, their large eyes reflecting the flames. The girl's leg was trapped under a fallen beam. Danny didn't hesitate. He sprinted across the burning ground, feeling the heat sear his exposed skin. The boy saw him coming and screamed something in his native language, high-pitched and terrified. Danny held up his hands, showing he meant no harm. He reached the beam and tested its weight, too heavy to lift alone. The fire was spreading fast, eating through the surrounding structures. Black smoke rolled across the ground, choking and thick. Danny pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around the girl's trapped leg, then braced himself against the beam. His muscles screamed as he lifted. Inch by inch, the beam rose. The boy understood and pulled his sister free, dragging her backward. Danny's vision swam, his lungs burning from smoke inhalation. He let the beam drop and grabbed both children, one under each arm. The explosion came from behind, a shock wave that threw him forward. Danny tucked the children against his chest and rolled, taking the impact on his back and shoulders. Pain shot through his spine, but he kept moving, stumbling toward the safe zone where emergency crews had set up a perimeter. He made it 10 feet before his legs gave out. Danny fell to his knees, gently setting the children down. The boy clutched his sister, both of them trembling. Medical personnel rushed forward with stretchers and breathing masks. Someone pulled Danny back, forcing an oxygen mask over his face. He watched through blurred vision as they tended to the alien children. The girl was crying for her mother. Danny closed his eyes, the adrenaline finally crashing, leaving only exhaustion and pain. He woke in the medical bay 6 hours later. His back was bandaged, his lungs felt raw, but he was alive. The nurse told him the children were stable. Their mother had been found in the southern sector, unharmed but frantic. The settlement was still smoldering, but the fire was contained. Danny didn't think much about it after that. He'd done what anyone would do. Saved 2 kids from a fire. Nothing special. Nothing that deserved recognition. He was wrong about that. The next morning, Danny limped back to his quarters on crutches, his body protesting every movement. The settlement was a disaster zone. Repair crews worked through the rubble, salvaging what they could. The air still tasted like ash. He wanted a shower, food, and about 12 hours of uninterrupted sleep. His door was open. That was the first strange thing. Danny always locked it. He pushed through cautiously, hand instinctively reaching for the stun baton on his belt. A woman stood in his living space, not human, Valarian. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with that same iridescent skin that shifted colors in the light. Her eyes were large and golden, with vertical pupils that dilated when she saw him. She wore flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with their own internal light. Behind her stood two children, the ones he'd saved. Danny froze in the doorway. The woman spoke, her voice melodic but perfectly understandable through the translation device on her collar. "Danny Carter, you saved my children. You risked your life for them when you had no obligation, when many of your kind would have run past." Danny shifted uncomfortably on his crutches. "I just did what anyone would do. They're okay, right? The girl's leg? Healing, thanks to you." The woman stepped forward, and Danny noticed she was holding something. A small crystalline object, roughly the size of his fist, that pulsed with an inner light. It cycled through colors, white to blue to violet and back again. She held it out to him. "This is a Valerian memory crystal. It contains the genetic archives of my people. Every discovery, every scientific advancement, every piece of knowledge accumulated over 10,000 years of civilization." Danny stared at the crystal, not reaching for it. "I don't understand. Why are you giving this to me?" "Because you prove that humanity deserves it. My people were nearly extinct. We fled to the stars seeking shelter, and most species turned us away. Your colony accepted us without question, and you personally saved my children at great risk to yourself. This crystal represents our gratitude and our hope for alliance." She pressed it into his hand. The crystal was warm, almost alive. Danny could feel it humming against his palm. "There's more," the woman continued. Her expression grew serious. "The knowledge in this crystal includes our weapons technology, our faster-than-light drives, our medical advances that can extend human life by centuries, information that would make your species a major power in the galaxy." Danny's hand tightened around the crystal. "That's a hell of a gift for pulling two kids out of a fire." "It's not just a gift, it's an investment. My people see potential in humanity. Raw courage and compassion are rare in the universe. Most advanced species have bred it out in pursuit of efficiency, but humans retain it." "You retain it?" She gestured to her children, who watched Danny with those huge, luminous eyes. "We want to ensure your species survives what's coming." "What's coming?" The woman's colors shifted darker, blues and purples rippling across her skin. "The fire yesterday was no accident. It was a test. A probe by the Dominion, the empire that destroyed our world. They're expanding aggressively, subjugating or eliminating every species in their path. They've been watching your colony, assessing whether humanity is worth conquering or simply erasing." Danny felt ice in his veins. "When? Soon. Months, perhaps. Maybe less." She moved toward the door, her children following. "Use the knowledge wisely, Danny Carter. Share it with your leaders. Prepare your people, and know that the Valerian people stand with humanity, for whatever that's worth." One more thing. The crystal responds to genetic code. It will only unlock its full contents for you and those you designate as worthy. Choose carefully. Not all humans share your character. Then she was gone, sweeping out with her children. Danny stood alone in his quarters, holding a crystal that contained the entire legacy of an alien civilization. His hands shook. He sat down heavily, ignoring the pain in his back. The crystal pulsed in his palm, warm and alive. Through the window he could see the damaged settlement, the burn scars on buildings, the people working to rebuild. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that everything was about to change. Danny activated his communication unit with trembling fingers. He needed to reach the colony director, the Earth government, someone who could understand what this meant. But first, he held the crystal up to the light, watching the colors dance. Inside this small object was the power to transform humanity from a small, isolated colony species into something greater. Knowledge that could save lives or start wars, technology that could unite people or tear them apart. His door chimed. Danny nearly dropped the crystal. He shoved it into his jacket pocket and called out, "Come in." A man entered, wearing the uniform of colony security. His face was hard, scarred from old battles. His name badge read, Harris. "Danny Carter? I need you to come with me. Colony director wants to speak with you immediately." "About what?" "About the alien woman who visited you. About what she gave you." Harris's hand rested on his weapon. "Don't make this difficult." Danny's heart hammered. How did they know already? Had they been watching? He stood slowly, reaching for his crutches. "I'm injured. Can this wait?" "No. Director's orders. Now." Danny nodded, mind racing. He couldn't let them simply take the crystal. The Valarian woman had entrusted it to him specifically. She'd said to choose carefully who gained access. Something told him that colony security bursting into his quarters wasn't what she had in mind. He moved toward the door, leaning heavily on his crutches. As he passed Harris, he stumbled deliberately, dropping one crutch. Harris instinctively bent to pick it up. Danny ran. Pain exploded through his back and legs, but adrenaline overrode it. He burst through the door into the corridor, startling colonists who jumped aside. Behind him, Harris shouted and gave chase. The settlement was a maze of interconnected buildings and corridors. Danny knew them well from his years here. He ducked left into a maintenance passage, then right through a storage area. His injured body screamed protest, but he pushed harder. He could hear Harris behind him, accompanied by at least two others now. Their boots thundered on the metal floors. Danny's lungs burned, his vision blurred. He wasn't going to make it far like this. He burst out into the main plaza, where dozens of colonists were gathered for the morning meal. Danny pushed through the crowd, using them as cover. Someone grabbed his arm and he nearly swung at them before recognizing his friend Marcus. "Danny, what's wrong? You look like hell." "No time. Need to hide. Security's after me." Danny pressed the crystal into Marcus's hand. "Take this. Don't let them find it. Don't let anyone find it. I'll come for it when it's safe." Marcus stared at the glowing object. "What is this?" "Everything. Just trust me." Danny shoved him toward the eastern exit. "Go. Now." Harris emerged from the maintenance passage, spotted Danny, and raised his weapon. "Freeze! Don't move!" The plaza erupted into chaos. Colonists screamed and scattered. Danny raised his hands slowly, watching Marcus disappear into the crowd. At least the crystal was safe for now. Harris approached, weapon trained on Danny's chest. Two more security officers flanked him. "Where is it? Where's the device the alien gave you?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Harris struck him across the face with the butt of his weapon. Danny's head snapped back, blood filling his mouth. He hit the ground hard, pain radiating through his injured back. "Wrong answer. Let's try again." "Where is the crystal?" Danny spat blood. "Even if I had something, why would colony security care? I saved two kids. Their mother thanked me. What's the crime?" "The crime is possession of unauthorized alien technology. The crime is failing to report contact with a foreign entity. The crime is endangering this colony's security." Harris pulled Danny up by his jacket. "Last chance. Where is it?" A new voice cut through the tension. "He doesn't have it." Everyone turned. The Valarian woman stood at the plaza's edge, her children beside her. Her skin had shifted to deep crimson and black, colors that Danny instinctively recognized as aggressive. The crystal has already been secured, she continued, moving forward. You're too late and too foolish. Did you think we would simply hand over our legacy to be seized by petty bureaucrats? Harris swung his weapon toward her. Stay back. This is colony business. No. This is galactic business. Your colony director has been compromised by Dominion agents. The attack yesterday was coordinated from within. They wanted to prevent this alliance, to ensure humanity remained weak when the invasion begins. Murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd. Danny's head spun, trying to process everything. Compromised? Dominion agents? How deep did this go? The Valarian woman raised her hand. The air shimmered. A holographic display materialized above the plaza, showing communication logs, financial transfers, and surveillance footage. Danny recognized the colony director in several images, meeting with creatures that definitely weren't human. Your director has been selling information to the Dominion for 2 years, the woman announced. He reported our arrival here. He facilitated yesterday's attack. And when he learned we'd given the crystal to Danny Carter, he ordered its immediate seizure. Not to protect the colony, to deliver it to our enemies. Harris lowered his weapon slightly, staring at the holographic evidence. Other security officers looked uncertain. The gathered colonists were in an uproar. This is propaganda, Harris said, but his voice lacked conviction. Alien tricks. Then verify it yourselves. Check the communication logs. Follow the money. The Valarian woman turned to address the entire crowd. Humanity stands at a crossroads. The Dominion is coming whether you're ready or not. The crystal we gave to Danny Carter contains the tools for survival, but survival requires courage to face difficult truths about those you've trusted. An explosion rocked the plaza. The eastern wall buckled and armed figures poured through. Not colonists. Their armor was sleek, black, inscribed with symbols Danny didn't recognize. Dominion soldiers. The plaza descended into screaming chaos. The Dominion troops opened fire, energy weapons cutting through the air. Colonists fell, some stumbling for cover, others not fast enough. Danny rolled behind a planter as weapon fire scorched the ground where he'd been standing. Harris and the other security officers were firing back, but their weapons seemed ineffective against the Dominion armor. The Valarian woman moved with inhuman speed. She pulled her children behind her and produced a device from her robes. It expanded in her hands, forming into something like a rifle, but elegant, organic. She returned fire, and where her shots landed, Dominion soldiers fell. Danny's mind raced. Marcus had the crystal. He'd gone east, right toward where the Dominion had breached. He had to move. Had to find Marcus before they did. Danny forced himself up, ignoring his screaming body, and ran into the chaos. Energy blasts filled the air. Buildings burned. People died. And somewhere in this nightmare, the future of humanity was clutched in his friend's unknowing hands. Danny Carter, maintenance worker and part-time medic, had saved 2 alien children from a fire. Now he was running through a war zone to save his entire species. The universe, he decided, had a terrible sense of irony. He found Marcus 3 corridors over, pressed against a wall, the crystal still glowing in his hands. His friend's eyes were wide with terror. Danny, what the hell is happening? No time. We need to move. Danny grabbed Marcus's arm. That thing you're holding? It's important. Really important. People are dying for it. Then maybe we should give it to them. They'll kill us anyway. Come on. They ran together, 2 ordinary men caught in extraordinary circumstances. Behind them, the sounds of battle intensified. Ahead, Danny had no idea what they'd find. but the crystal pulsed warm against Marcus's palm, a beacon of hope or a harbinger of destruction. Either way, humanity's fate had just been thrust into the hands of the least likely heroes, and Danny Carter was about to discover that saving 2 children was just the beginning. The real test was about to start. The maintenance tunnels beneath the colony were dark, cramped, and perfect for hiding. Danny led Marcus through the maze of pipes and conduits, his injured back protesting with every step. Above them, they could hear muffled explosions and weapon fire. The battle was spreading. "Where are we going?" Marcus whispered, stumbling in the darkness. "Engineering bay. There's a communication array we can use to contact Earth directly, bypass the colony director." Danny paused at an intersection, listening. Footsteps echoed from somewhere above. He gestured for silence, and they pressed against the cold metal wall. The footsteps passed. Danny exhaled slowly and continued forward. His hands trembled from adrenaline and exhaustion. 24 hours ago, his biggest concern was fixing a broken water recycler. Now he was fugitive number 1 in an alien invasion. They reached the engineering bay through a service hatch. The large chamber was empty, most of the staff having fled or been called to emergency stations. Banks of computers lined the walls, their screens flickering with damage reports and system alerts. Danny moved to the main communication console and started entering commands. His fingers flew across the keys, accessing channels he technically wasn't authorized to use. Emergency override codes he'd memorized years ago, just in case. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, standing guard by the door, still clutching the crystal. "Sending a distress signal to Earth Command. Video, audio, data dump. Everything the Valarian woman showed us about the colony director, everything about the crystal, everything about the Dominion." Danny's screen flashed red. "Access denied. Someone's locked out all external communications." "The director? Has to be. He's trying to contain this, keep Earth in the dark until the Dominion finishes us off." Danny slammed his fist against the console. "Think. There had to be another way. The crystal." Danny turned to Marcus. "Let me see it." Marcus handed it over. The crystal pulsed brighter in Danny's hands, warming to his touch. The Valarian woman said it responded to genetic code, that it would only unlock for him. Maybe that meant more than just accessing information. Danny held the crystal up to the communication array's input port. Nothing happened for a moment. Then the crystal flared brilliant white and interfaces appeared in the air around him. Holographic controls, text in languages he didn't recognize but somehow understood. The crystal was integrating directly with the colony's systems. "How are you doing that?" Marcus breathed. "No idea. But I'm not stopping." Danny manipulated the holographic controls, feeling knowledge flow into his mind from the crystal. It was overwhelming, like drinking from a fire hose. Valarian technology, quantum communication principles, bypass protocols. His consciousness expanded to touch systems he'd never known existed. He found the communication lockout and shattered it. The Valarian technology was centuries beyond human understanding. The director's safeguards were like paper walls. Danny opened every channel: military, civilian, emergency, corporate. He broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously, uploading everything. The evidence against the director, the holographic recordings, information about the Dominion threat, specifications from the crystal about defensive technologies humanity could build with the right knowledge. And then, because subtlety was dead anyway, he added his own message. "This is Danny Carter, maintenance technician at New Hope Colony. We are under attack by an alien force called the Dominion. Our colony director has been compromised and is working with the enemy. A friendly species called the Valarians has offered humanity an alliance and provided advanced technology to help us survive. I'm uploading everything now. Earth Command, if you're receiving this, we need immediate military support. To everyone else, prepare yourselves. The universe is bigger and more dangerous than we knew, and humanity just got dragged into a war we didn't start, but we're damn well going to finish. He ended the transmission and pulled the crystal away from the port. The holographic interfaces vanished. Danny swayed on his feet, suddenly exhausted. Using the crystal had drained him in ways he didn't understand. Did it work? Marcus asked. Message is out. Whether anyone gets here in time is another question. Danny pocketed the crystal. We need to find the Valarian woman and her children. If we're going to survive this, we need allies who know how to fight. They left the engineering bay through the main entrance, no longer bothering with stealth. The colony corridors were chaos. Smoke filled the air. Emergency lights flashed. They passed injured colonists being helped by others, saw Dominion soldiers advancing through the southern sector. A blast nearly took Danny's head off. He and Marcus dove behind a barricade where several colony security officers had dug in. The same officers who'd been chasing him an hour ago. Harris was among them, his face covered in soot and blood. "Carter," Harris growled. "Still alive? Disappointed? Surprised? Look, I don't know what's going on anymore." Chain of commands collapsed. Directors barricaded himself in administration. Half our people are dead or wounded, and those things keep coming. He gestured toward the Dominion soldiers. Our weapons barely scratched them. Danny pulled out the crystal. This might help. It contains weapons technology that could level the playing field. Harris stared at the glowing object. That's what this was all about? That little rock? This little rock contains 10,000 years of advanced science, including weapons that can punch through Dominion armor. Danny closed his eyes, letting the crystal interface with his mind again. Information flooded in. Weapon designs, energy configurations, modifications that could be made to existing human technology. He opened his eyes. "I need a plasma cutter, 2 power cells, and a stabilizing coil. Can you get those?" Harris barked orders. 2 officers scrambled off and returned minutes later with the requested items. Danny worked quickly, his hands moving with confidence he didn't feel. The knowledge from the crystal guided him, showing him exactly how to reconfigure the plasma cutter into something more lethal. 10 minutes later, he held a weapon that looked like a bastard offspring of human engineering and alien design. It hummed in his hands, power coils glowing blue. "That's either going to save us or blow up in your face," Harris said. "Only one way to find out." Danny raised the modified weapon and fired at an advancing Dominion soldier. The blast caught the soldier's center mass and punched straight through his armor. The soldier went down hard and didn't get up. Harris grinned viciously. "Now we're talking. Carter, you just became our most valuable asset. Can you make more of those?" "Not fast enough, but I can show you how." Danny accessed the crystal again and projected holographic instructions. "Follow these specs exactly. Any plasma cutter can be modified. Spread the word to every security team." Over the next hour, the tide of battle shifted. Colony security and armed civilians began fielding modified weapons. Dominion soldiers who'd been advancing unchecked suddenly found themselves facing real resistance. The invasion stalled. But Danny knew it wasn't enough. This was just a probe, a small force. The Valarian woman had warned that the Dominion was an empire. If this colony proved difficult, they'd simply bring more ships, more soldiers. Humanity needed more than improvised weapons. They needed the full knowledge of the crystal. And Danny was the only one who could access it. He found the Valarian woman in the medical bay, defending a group of wounded colonists. Her children were beside her, both wielding smaller versions of her organic weapon. They'd killed at least a dozen Dominion soldiers. Bodies in black armor littered the floor. "Danny Carter," she said, not taking her eyes off the entrance. "I see you survived, and I see you've begun using the crystal's knowledge. Had to. We were being slaughtered. But this is just the start, isn't it? This isn't the full invasion." "No, this is reconnaissance in force. Testing your defenses, your resolve. The main fleet won't arrive for several weeks, but when it does, it will bring hundreds of ships and thousands of soldiers. Your colony will be obliterated unless you're prepared. Then we need to prepare. I need to share the crystal's knowledge with people who can use it. Scientists, engineers, military strategists." Danny hesitated. "But you said to choose carefully. How do I know who to trust?" "You don't. That's the burden of the crystal bearer. Every person you share this with gains power. Some will use it wisely. Others will use it for personal gain. A few will try to weaponize it against their fellow humans." Her golden eyes fixed on him. "This is why my people chose you specifically, not for your intelligence or your position, but for your character. You ran into a fire to save strangers. That moral courage is what humanity needs now." Danny wanted to argue, to say she'd chosen wrong, that he was just a maintenance worker who got lucky, but the words died in his throat. She was right about one thing. Humanity needed this knowledge, and someone had to make the hard choices about how to distribute it. The crystal pulsed in his pocket, warm and alive. Danny could feel it now, truly feel it. Not just a device, but something more. A living archive, a consciousness of sorts, accumulated wisdom of an entire civilization. And it had accepted him as its keeper. A tremendous explosion shook the medical bay. Ceiling panels fell. Equipment toppled. Through the smoke, Danny saw Dominion soldiers breaching through the far wall. Not just a few this time, dozens. A concentrated assault. The Valarian woman pushed her children behind a medical station and opened fire. Danny grabbed a modified plasma cutter from a fallen security officer and joined her. Side by side, human and alien fought against the Dominion advance. Danny lost track of time. There was only the next target, the next shot, the next breath. His arms ached. His back screamed. But he didn't stop. Around him, colonists fought with whatever they had. Doctors wielded surgical tools as weapons. Nurses threw medical supplies. Everyone understood. This was survival. This was the moment that defined whether humanity would stand or fall. A Dominion soldier broke through their line. Danny fired, but his weapon's power cell was depleted. The soldier raised its weapon, aimed at Danny's chest. Time seemed to slow. Then the Valarian boy was there, 6 years old, alien, tiny. He fired his weapon with both hands, and the Dominion soldier collapsed. The boy looked up at Danny with those huge, luminous eyes, scales shifting through nervous colors. Danny reached down and ruffled what might have been the boy's hair. "Thanks, kid. We're even now." The boy smiled, showing teeth that weren't quite human, but expressing an emotion Danny recognized perfectly. Determination. The Dominion assault finally broke. The soldiers retreated, regrouping for another push. Danny slumped against a medical station, reloading his weapon with shaking hands. Around him, the wounded outnumbered the healthy. They couldn't sustain another attack like that. The Valarian woman moved to his side. "They're pulling back, receiving new orders." "Something's changed." "What?" She tilted her head, listening to something Danny couldn't hear. Ships. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light transit at the edge of your system. Human ships. Earth Command received your message. Danny felt hope surge through him. How long until they get here? 3 hours at maximum burn. The Dominion will either retreat or commit to a full assault before then. We need to hold until reinforcements arrive. 3 hours. Danny looked around the medical bay at the exhausted defenders, the wounded, the dead. Could they last 3 hours? He pulled out the crystal again. This time, he didn't just access information. He opened himself to it completely, letting the knowledge flood in without restriction. It was agonizing, like his brain was being rewritten at the molecular level. But he needed everything. Every weapon, every defense, every tactical advantage the Valarians possessed. Images flashed through his mind. Shield generators, point defense systems, hardened bunkers, automated defense drones. Technologies that humanity couldn't build in 3 hours, but that Danny could improvise with what they had. He opened his eyes, and they glowed faintly with the same light as the crystal. The Valarian woman watched him with something like respect. You're integrating with it. Dangerous. The human mind wasn't designed for this. Don't care. Tell me where the colony keeps its industrial fabricators. The big ones used for building construction. She told him. Danny was already moving, calling orders through the communication system. He rattled off instructions that would have sounded insane yesterday, but now were crystal clear. Modifications to the colony's power grid. Reconfiguring atmospheric processors into makeshift sealed generators. Turning construction drones into weapons platforms. The next 3 hours were a blur of frantic activity. Danny was everywhere, directing teams, making instant decisions, solving problems before most people even recognized they existed. The crystal's knowledge flowed through him, and he channeled it into action. The Dominion attacked twice more. Both times, they encountered defenses that shouldn't have been possible. Shield barriers that hadn't existed an hour before. Automated turrets made from repurposed mining equipment. Traps and obstacles that used the colony's own infrastructure as weapons. And Danny was at the center of it all, orchestrated by the crystal, guided by 10,000 years of accumulated wisdom. When Earth Command ships finally arrived, the Dominion fleet retreated. They'd lost too many soldiers, faced too much unexpected resistance. The probe had failed. Danny collapsed in the command center, the crystal falling from his hands. His nose was bleeding. His head felt like it was splitting open. The integration had pushed his human biology to its limits. The Valarian woman picked up the crystal gently. You went too far, used too much too fast. Your brain needs time to heal. Did we win? Danny asked weakly. You survived. That's what matters. And now your people have the knowledge they need. The ships above contain scientists and military leaders who will want to speak with you, who will want access to the crystal. Your government will want to study it, control it, weaponize it. Will you let them? She placed the crystal back in Danny's hand, closing his fingers around it. It's not mine to let or deny. The crystal chose you. What happens next is your decision. But know this, the Dominion will return. In greater numbers, with greater force. This colony is just the beginning. They're coming for Earth itself. Danny looked at the crystal glowing softly in his palm. 24 hours ago, he'd saved 2 children from a fire. Now he held the key to humanity's survival or destruction. The weight of it was crushing, but he'd made his choice when he ran into that fire. He'd made it when he used the crystal to defend the colony. He'd make it again every time. Then we'd better get ready, Danny said, because humanity doesn't surrender. We fight, even when we're outmatched, even when the odds are impossible. We fight. The Valerian woman's scales shifted to warm gold, a color Danny had learned meant approval. Now you understand why we chose your species. Welcome to the galactic stage, Danny Carter. Try not to let it destroy you. She left with her children. Through the command center windows, Danny could see Earth Command ships descending toward the colony. His life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. But one thing was certain. The universe had underestimated humanity. The Dominion had made the mistake of attacking when humans were just beginning to reach the stars, when they were still learning who they could become. And Danny Carter, the man who saved 2 alien children, was about to teach them all a lesson they'd never forget. The war was just beginning, but for the first time, humanity had a fighting chance. The crystal pulsed in his hand, warm and alive, full of promise and danger. Danny pocketed it and stood, ignoring his protesting body. There was work to do, an empire to defy, a species to save. He walked toward the landing bay to meet Earth's representatives, carrying the weight of the future on his shoulders. And despite everything, despite the pain and exhaustion and fear, Danny Carter smiled. This was going to be one hell of a story.